The Lady Vols beat Missouri. You know, we're getting to the point where every game affects your tournament resume. We're getting to the point where they weigh those last 10 games. So Tennessee appears to be uh, at least close to firing all cylinders. How close would you call them?
I'm not going to say firing on all cylinders. Many people would say their win over Missouri yesterday, even though it was on the road against an SEC team, is probably their most concerning game they've played so far, or was the worst game. Missouri's not a good team, and after putting up a fight against a lot of top 10 teams and losing close games, they needed a close one to win this one. I would venture to say, and Dave, you know how this works. If you've been like fighting your guts out against top 10 teams and constantly losing and coming up short, and then you finally play an easier team, you're probably mentally so drained you're taking that day off, right? To a certain degree.
I would agree with that.
And you're on the road taking the day off at a Missouri team that if you take the day off could be dangerous. And so they put up a fight. And Missouri, has exposed that are some of the issues that are still with this team right now because it's Kim Caldwell's first team, which is they don't have they're not great at scoring in the paint in their half-court offense. Their half-court offense, they can either score in the paint in transition or shoot well from three. But they don't score in the paint well while running their half-court sets, and that's an issue they got to work on. And the other part is their half-court defense, just period, is an issue if they're not getting the steals and forcing the turnovers. And this is part of adjusting to Kim Caldwell's system. We know what she wanted to focus on first, and that was the tempo, and that's creating these problems. They did enough from three. They were 10 of 25. Talaysia Cooper is looking like a superstar. She had 27 points in the game, 6 steals, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 block shots. So literally did everything. Z Spearman had 13 points, 2 steals, a block shot, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. And Jewel Spear off the bench was 2 of 4 from 3, had 8 points, and she closed the deal because she hit 2 free throws late after Missouri had a chance to tie it, but went for a layup when they were trailing by 3. So I think you're right. Every win is a resume win at this point. They're not going to hold it against Tennessee for struggling with Missouri. They're still in the top 25 despite a 3-game losing streak. So really just winning this game was the big deal. But it was somewhat of a wake-up call they could have used because the next 2 games for them, Dave, are UConn at home and LSU on the road.
Okay. So let me ask you this, not to go off kilter, because I think we all agree that people, they have every right to have offspring. Do you think the fact that Kim Caldwell had a baby last week or 10 days ago made her players play harder, had no effect whatsoever, or was a distraction from an X's and O's standpoint? Again, it's fine to have distraction. It's a baby, for goodness sake. Again, that is a question we'll ask about the Lady Vols as we remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. I think that right now it's too early for Kim Caldwell to get in the pool and spa. I don't think you're supposed to be in warm water yet, but at some point she would greatly appreciate Dynasty Pools and Spas in Athens. Stop by and get a free Off the Hook Sports prize and also get registered to win more. And by the way, $500 off that new spa. I'm going to stand firm. I don't think it really had much of an effect. I can't say that the head coach not being there didn't have somewhat of an effect. You know, she's smart. She's going to give her basketball input. That to me is, it had somewhat of an an impact, but not a huge one.
Yeah, I think the bigger impact is they just played 3 good teams. Two of them that just right now are better than the Lady Vols. The Lady Vols will get there. They're right there. You can see they're right there, but they have some. There's still a lot of adjustments to be made with this system, and with that comes some. I mean, they lost to Vanderbilt by 1 on the road. As I've told you guys 1,000 times, Vanderbilt Memorial Gym is the craziest place to play. Whenever you, the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee should just ignore losses to Vanderbilt for teams. Wouldn't you agree, Dave? If it's at Vanderbilt,
well, like that's a little strong. I will tell you this: I would never hold a game there in the NCAA tournament, and I would probably take a loss there with a grain of salt. I'm going to say
now that you say that, the NCAA is definitely going to hold a game there one day because they love the chaos, honestly, in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, that one I forgive. At Texas, that's when Kim Caldwell was giving birth, so that was the game she missed. Her not being there was already a distraction, but also Texas is a top 10 team, and I think maybe a little bit better than the Lady Vols right now. And then the next one was South Carolina at home. I mean, nobody's going to accuse this team of being better than South Carolina this year. So, I mean, you can't really look into that. So none of those really stand out despite the 3-game losing streak. Struggling with Missouri yesterday was what stood out. But again, I think that's where the distraction set in. You know, you were on a 3-game losing streak. All 3 games you could have won, 2 against top 10 teams, another one on the road against a good team. During that time, your coach went into labor. You feel like you go into the Missouri game feeling like you've got an off day, feeling like you've kind of got a game you can coast by and win like 25, 30 points. And then that mentality cost you and they put up a fight and you got to win the game in the end. So I think that's where the distraction came out.
Part of the maturation of a basketball team. I've got no problem with that.
It is. I mean, and heck, even teams at their peak do that. I mean, how many times did Nick Saban have to talk about rat poison at Alabama?
Yeah. I mean, if they'd have lost, we'd be having a different conversation, right?
Right. And they found a way to win when they had to. So I don't think there's much to worry about too much with this team right now. We know what their limitations are.
What are their limitations in your mind? Just height, size, down low?
Down low. It's basically finesse fundamentals in the paint. They have good size, but it's just here's what they are, Dave. I'll give you because they have a lot of athletic players. You know those power forwards in the NBA that they're high flying, they can dunk over everybody, but when you ask them to do a post move in a half court inside out game, they have no idea what they're doing.
Blake Griffin?
Yes. And Dwight Howard too.
Yes.
That's the post players on this team. They're wildly athletic, but they can't create buckets inside the paint out of a half court offense. And it's constantly causing problems.
Nope. Got no argument with that.